should wear my glasses. Hopefully the train won't go by because I'm in the old train station. That's my county office. I also work for the county as tourism counselor for Julie Perry. So hopefully the train won't go by.
In a few more minutes. I think there's some more people signed up, so we'll give it a few more minutes before we get started. I figure we'll get started at 7:05 will be our start time. Thanks to everyone who's joined so far. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our next installment of our Evening with Germanna Virtual Lecture Series. We do these lecture series usually in the spring and the fall. We highlight certain areas of history, nature, culture of our area tied to Germanna, because Germanna's history, of course, is all interconnected with all of this. Before we get started, I just want to thank all of our generous Sustainers Circle supporters. We can't do this without all of our supporters, and we're eternally grateful for all of them, especially those that are listed on the screen here tonight. Tonight, I'm excited to be introducing Shannah Mort, who is the acting executive director of the James Madison Museum of Orange County Heritage, which is based in the town of Orange, so about 20 minutes from Historic Germanna's Visitor Center. And she's going to be sharing a little bit with us about the historic house Bloomsbury. Approximately, I have 1729 here, but I was informed that their dendrochronology actually dates it to the 1740s, but Shannah will go into that. Again, she's going to be sharing a little bit about this really unique house and how it connects to the story of historic Germanna. And so without any further ado, I'll turn over to her. We will have a chat open for questions, so feel free to pop any questions in the chat. There's also a Q&A feature, so whatever works better for you, I'll be checking both of them. And so when she's all finished, we'll go through all of the questions and the Q&A, and we'll answer them. We'll go through them in the order we receive them. But otherwise, without any further ado, Shannah Mort.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. As Shannon said, my name's Shannah Mort. I'm the acting executive director for the James Madison Museum of Orange County Heritage. And we have the great honor of, through the Helen Marie Taylor Trust, of giving private tours of the Bloomsbury property. So I have, just wanted to share some things about this great property, and it's got a long history in Orange, and its ties to the Golden Horseshoe. What you're looking at right now is an aerial view of the property. The original land patent was given to Lieutenant Colonel James Taylor II, and he was an English immigrant and from Carlisle, England. He was married to Martha Thompson. So he was originally appointed a surveyor by the Virginia Surveyor General. And he held several properties in 6 different counties, and he was helping to explore, he wanted to explore the western expanse of Virginia. So in 1704, he asked the House of Burgesses for permission to explore the mountains. And his quote was, let me get this right here. He wanted to explore the strange Indians lately seen on our frontier. And so he asked permission for that. The council put him off for about 13 months and then eventually denied him. But we do know that he was part of the expedition, Governor Spotswood's expedition that left Germanna in 1716. And Shannon, if you could share the Spotswood's trail route photo. So as you can see here, this is a map of the route that Governor Spotswood took when he did his, what we now know as the Knights of the Golden Horseshoe expedition. And we don't know exactly what trail they followed, but we do know for sure that they would have gone through the property that Bloomsbury now sits on. So that's what ties Lieutenant Colonel Taylor into the Golden Horseshoe story. And as a result of, his loyalty to the crown, he was given a land patent in approximately 1722 that encompassed 8,500 acres in what was then Spotsylvania County, but now would be most of what is modern day the town of Orange. And that was eventually split up. And so once let me refer to my slide here, sorry. So once Bloomsbury is actually one of the oldest existential dwellings in the state of Virginia, and most definitely the oldest house in the county of Orange. Originally, it was thought that this house was built in the 1720s, but after having the dendrochronology done recently, the trust had the dendrochronology done, and we know that it was built sometime in between 1750 and 1753. So rather than having been built by James Sr. or even James II, it's most likely that James Taylor the third was actually the one who built this property. We can just refer back to the aerial picture, Shannon. So where you see the driveway here, this driveway line, this runs along what actually would have been the Swift Gap Run Turnpike. And I correct myself, Swift Run Gap is an access point to the Shenandoah Valley. So the Knights of the Golden Horseshoe possibly passed through Swift Run Gap on their 1716 expedition. Waterways were the first transportation systems in Virginia, but when the Knights opened up the Piedmont region of Virginia, a system of roads was needed. And because the streams were just impossible to navigate. So counties were required to develop roads within their boundaries and to the capital. So first it was Jamestown, later Williamsburg. Better roads were needed between the Blue Ridge and the eastern portion of Virginia, though. So Swift Run Gap was the way into the valley from Fredericksburg and Alexandria. In the 1760s, there were quite a few petitions to improve the road from Fredericksburg to Swift Run Gap, and bills were passed to ensure the road was improved, but road improvements were not a major concern when the country was at war with England. So toll roads and turnpikes were the solution to improve those roads between counties and across the Blue Ridge. So the Swift Run Gap Turnpike Company was formed, and it ran a straight line from Orange County Courthouse to the wilderness. But it didn't extend west of the courthouse. And so again, it passed very, very close to where the Bloomsbury driveway is, right here along this tree line here and over here. So basically what is now what would be modern day Route 20, part of that runs a straight line through what was the Swift Run Gap Turnpike. So moving on here. Again, like I said, Bloomsbury is one of the oldest existential dwellings. The original portion of the home would have been built between 1750 and 1753. And that would be this portion that you see right here. The lean-to was later added in approximately between 1797 and 1800.
Shauna, before I go any forward, I don't know if like your mouse shows up. So which side of the house? The left
Oh, I
side or the right side so
apologize.
I can circle it. Yeah. I'm
Okay,
putting it
are you
out for
seeing me
everyone.
here? Okay, so the west side of the house where the front door is, or the east side of the house where the front door is.
Okay, so that's the one I'm mousing
Yes,
around
and
right
this
now. All
area
right.
here,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
that would have been part of the original structure.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to say approximately 1800, this would have been the second structure that was added. And that structure would have been added by William Quarles in approximately 1800. And so this is the new portion of the house and then the old portion. And at the time that it was built, there was no interior connection between the houses. So it was almost like it was a duplex. So where the houses joined, you had to go outside and back into another between each addition. But when Helen Marie Taylor in the 1960s, when she did the restoration, a hole was cut to connect the two portions. But for whatever reason, that was not done initially. We do know that there were several outbuildings here on the property. We know that there were 8 slave quarters. We haven't found them yet. As you can see, the smaller building that you see here, yes, that would be it. That is the original smokehouse. It was actually moved 18 feet to the west when the reconstruction or when they were redoing the house in the 60s in order to attempt to save a tree, which is no longer there, but they were attempting to save a tree. It's actually the stump that you'll see over there. But that is the original smokehouse. Can you still hear me? All right, am I there?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay,
You're good.
sorry, my AirPods went out. If you note here, the indentation in the grass, that was what's believed to have been a sunken gardens at the time. that would be towards the west side of, there you go, towards the west side of the house. That was a sunken gardens at the time. What they believe was, it's not known whether anything was actually planted there. It would have been an ornamental garden, but there is some family lore that actually it was used for lawn bowling at the time. And there would have also been a stable on this property. We know that there was an orangerium. There's also, I think you may have, it's in one of the pictures, there were two family cemeteries on this property. The Quarleses are still buried. I'm sorry, the Taylors' Quarles are still there. The Jerdone family that were also owners of the property, they did have their family members removed. The brick around the cemetery is a newer addition that was done by Mrs. Taylor when she started the restoration of the property. So James and Martha Taylor, the original builders of the home, they actually had a very distinct honor of being grandparents to two future presidents. So they were the grandparents to James Madison, our fourth president, and they were also the grandparents to Zachary Taylor. Zachary Taylor is, best known for being from Kentucky, but he was actually buried here, born here in Orange County in 1784. His family was actually moving out of Orange at the time. Mom was heavily pregnant, and as they were traveling out of the county, he decided to make his entrance. So we do get to claim his birthplace as Orange County. So, but James and Martha Taylor were, like I said, grandparents to two presidents, which I think is pretty neat. So the ownership timeline for the house, just to make it a little bit clearer, was originally the home was owned by the Taylors, and then the Quarles family, William Quarles, bought the home in 1797, and that's when he made the extensive additions to the house. The Jerdones were actually the last owners of the property before Mrs. Taylor bought it back, and they acquired the house in 1842, and they owned it until the 1960s. So the home was always in Helen Marie Taylor's family. She and her husband, she was a Taylor before she was married, and she was a Taylor. That was also her married name, but they were very distant cousins. So her husband bought that property back for her as a wedding gift in 1964. And that it was bought from the Jerdones. The Jerdone family had kept it in the family all that time. And actually there were two sisters living there that didn't have any children, and they were the last ones to live in the home before Mrs. Taylor basically turned it into her own personal museum. She spent about a good 50 years acquiring, restoring the home and acquiring artifacts for the property. And it is absolutely stunning inside. One thing I think that I find so interesting, or so, like I was saying to you earlier, Shannon, I feel like this house is truly a testament to not only our Virginia's, but our country's, revolutionary spirit and our strength. The home has seen, the Revolutionary War, it's seen the Civil War, it's seen all the changes in between and after. And, I think that's it's just a really neat testament to Virginia's enduring spirit for sure. So during the Civil War, when the Jerdones owned it, it actually saw several notable characters. The Jerdone family was visited by Robert E. Lee. He actually had his encampment, which is on the property. And he visited the Jerdone family and asked them if they would be willing to put up a special visitor, and they said yes. And a few days later, Jefferson Davis showed up with his Secret Service, and he did stay in the house for quite a bit of time when the Union attempted to occupy Orange Courthouse. And he visited daily while Jefferson Davis was there, and he became friends with one of the Jerdone daughters. And we do know that they wrote and responded to each other at least 3 times. And the last time was he responded for New Year's Day from Petersburg in 1865. So just as the war was about to be over, and thanked her for her New Year's gift that she had sent him. And he sent her back a picture and said that was really all he had to offer at the time. But he hoped that would keep some of the young bucks that were trying to take her riding, that they would leave her alone if he sent that. I thought that was pretty neat. So the restoration efforts that were done by Mrs. Taylor really focused on restoring Bloomsbury to its original Taylor era design. The house at the time that it was originally built was very much not your average farmhouse or a home that was, located out, near the mountains. It was most homes at the time were rough-hewn log. This was definitely a house where maybe a more prominent citizen would live and entertain. The design of the house, it's very pure. It's very similar, like, so most of the homes were designed that way, and the uses were, very multifaceted. A dining room may not have always been just a dining room. It could become a place for people to sleep when you had extra guests. And that would be the front door that you're showing now. It looks, when you first drive up to the property, you would assume that's, not the front, but that's the east facing front door, and you get a great view of the mountains from there. So the homes were this was a very functional home, although it's a beautiful home, and it still has a lot of its crown molding and original storage, but it was definitely a very functional home. It was set up for every inch, every foot of space to be used for multi-purposes. Underneath the house, which unfortunately I do not have a picture of, in the 1800s when the addition was put on, that's when the winter kitchen was put in. So that was the first actual, interior kitchen. Before that, as was common in many of the homes of the time, the kitchen would have been separate from the home, but this one was down underneath. There's also a wine cellar still there. Of course, it would have been sleeping quarters for some of the indentured or enslaved servants that were there. It definitely would have been sleeping quarters for any of the kitchen staff, because your day started very, very early and ended very, very late. So our visitors do still have access to that, and we do take them down to see the winter kitchen. One thing I noticed that was interesting about the winter kitchen as well is that there is no access to the home via a stairway directly from the kitchen. You actually have to go outside to enter the home, and that was usually done by families that wanted their privacy. They didn't want their servants just being able to kind of come and go without them being aware that they were coming into the house. So that's I imagine it was a little bit difficult carrying food from around the side back in. So the winter kitchen, if we go back to the aerial view of the home, the winter kitchen is actually underneath this side of the house. So it would be down here in the basement. So you would have had to have walked out and around to access the kitchen, or from this side and around to access the kitchen. There was no separate, interior entrance whatsoever. So moving forward, our main, what we're looking to do now with Bloomsbury is definitely open it up more to the public. We really want to see it become much more visited. We love to tell the story of Bloomsbury. We're learning new things all the time. Zan Nelson is working on a project to name the enslaved that were on the property. She's already gotten quite a few of the enslaved with the surnames, and some with just the first names. She's attempted to locate the cemetery on the ground, the enslaved cemetery, but unfortunately she hasn't been able to locate that, or the where the slave quarters were. But just like Montpelier did, I think it's just a matter of time. So that's an exciting project that we're working on, and we're always happy to give tours. People can contact the James Madison Museum, because there's so much more inside that it's difficult to tell everything that's inside the house. You really do need to see it with your own eyes. And I personally love giving those tours, and you know, especially if you love antiques, we have so many gorgeous period pieces in there dating all the way back to the 1600s that Mrs. Taylor was able to acquire. So through the James Madison Museum of Orange County Heritage, group tours or private tours can be booked, and you know, we're pretty willing to work around people's schedules, and I'll come on out and give you a one-on-one tour of the property. One thing I didn't mention as well is it's important to note that Bloomsbury was a completely self-sustaining plantation. So yes, we had the ornamental gardens over, you know, where we think the sunken garden where did the bowling. There's definitely the ornamental gardens, but all of this land would have been corn, tobacco, soybeans. They had a smokehouse. They had, you know, cows. They obviously hunted and they were able to fish in the Rapidan, but also a medicinal garden. They would have been completely self-sufficient. So, you know, barring war, they were able to survive for quite a long time out here. And you know, as you can see by the structure still standing, they did quite well. They really did. I think it helped that you know, they had the Confederate president staying here for quite a bit of time, and Lee was encamped on the property. And Shannon, I'm gonna point with my mouse and have you follow me. So this road right here, if you go down this road back here behind the trees, is where Robert E. Lee bivouacked. That's where his encampment was during the Civil War. So during the Civil Wars, Robert E. Lee, basically his side of the county was what they called Orange Courthouse, the town of Orange, this side of the county. And then Stonewall Jackson, his encampment was up on the Gordonsville side. So he protected Gordonsville. We had Lee down here on this side of the county. And just a quick plug, you know, the Exchange Hotel is also up there in Gordonsville. If you love Civil War history, that's another great place to visit as well. It's a wonderful place and kind of close to my heart, so I couldn't help but add that in if you love Civil War history. Orange and Spotsylvania definitely have a rich both Revolutionary and Civil War history here. So I think it's important, you know, in closing, before I take any questions, to note that, you know, Bloomsbury has definitely it's a symbol of early American history. It's a symbol of, you know, Orange County's endurance. It's a symbol of Virginia's endurance, but it's definitely, as we approach the 250th, I see it as a living symbol of our country's endurance. And you can often catch me standing on, you know, that front porch facing the mountains, and being the history nerd that I am, I'm often thinking, you know, how many women just like me stood here and you know, through wars and, you know, deaths and you know, slavery being ended, and saw this same view. And I think it's pretty neat that it's still standing and still definitely, you know, not as you know, rural. It's still rural, and I think that is definitely a direct result of Helen Marie Taylor and Jacqueline Taylor and them, you know, seeing the importance of keeping this property pretty close to how it was when it was built. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer, and I hope I didn't go too fast.
Yeah, I've been to Bloomsbury. It's the pictures don't do it justice. It's such a uniquely designed and built house with the two different wings, and you go and you could see where the
Mhm.
the exterior and the interior ended, and it's like, you know, that they were separate duplexes, like Shauna
Yeah.
said, which I thought was super unique.
And
Can
people
you
will
tell
often
us?
question, like,
Hmm,
why the interior, you can still see, like, the outside, the wood siding, you know, where the
yeah.
two, and it's, you know, because that door wasn't there. So,
Hmm,
you know, that's it, they just left it as it was. And, you know, I think my favorite spot in the house is the U-shaped staircase,
mm,
you
hmm.
know, in the original portion of the house, but that had the musicians gallery at the top of it for when they held dances, or that's, you know, that sort of thing. So it's definitely worth the visit, definitely.
Yeah, we're not trying to spoil everything, so you have to go and visit to see the
No,
inside.
and I also would like to refer our guests to, there is a YouTube channel called VA Travels. And I just did an interior tour video with the man who runs that YouTube channel, and it's about 45 minutes long, and it's pretty much as close as you can get to actually walking through the house with me. So if you're interested in taking a look at the interior of the house, definitely check out VA Travels on YouTube. And I think he's also got a Facebook page as well. And I will be sharing that video to the James Madison Museum's Facebook page for anyone that would like to look.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit more about the James Madison Museum, what you guys do, what you have to offer?
Oh, well, so we have so much to offer. If I do say so. The James Madison Museum, Helen Marie actually originally started that museum in 1976. It was initially the only presidential museum for James Madison in the country when it was first started, because Montpelier was still owned by the DuPonts. The house hadn't been opened up. So, initially, the reason that it was opened and was to give James, presidential history, but she also had a vision to give Orange County heritage history. So we have the Ag Hall there. Within the Ag Hall, we have some of our rescue squad and fire department memorabilia. We actually have a house, a tenant farmhouse there from Governor Spotswood's property. We have the whole house in the Ag Hall. It was moved, disassembled, cataloged, and moved to the museum. So you can come in and step inside what was a tenant farmer's house. We have Zachary Taylor's presidential bed. We have, of course, James Madison artifacts there. James Monroe artifacts there. We have Zachary Taylor and James Madison's Campeche chairs at the museum, which we're pretty proud of. You can see they were small men, so they're gorgeous in there. But we're also looking moving forward to we would like to tell more stories. We would like to. So Montpelier really does a great job of telling about James Madison's farm, where he lived, and the enslaved that lived there. We would like to tell the story of the environment that he lived in and what influenced him, which is Orange County and Orange County residents, and all of our churches and all of the groups that are here. And so we have history from Revolutionary War all the way to the present. And so, it's a little bit of everything. It definitely looks smaller from the outside than it is on the inside. We have some exciting events coming up. November the 14th, we have the American Friends of Lafayette. I don't know if you've heard, Shannon, but the American Friends of Lafayette are visiting Orange County. They're going on tour throughout the country, celebrating Lafayette's bicentennial to coming back and touring the country. And so November 14th, they will be here in Orange County. And in honor of that, we have a Lafayette exhibit that we're going to be unveiling hopefully by the end of the month. It's a traveling exhibit, so we're hoping to get that by the end of the month. And we will have that in the museum all the way through December. If you can't come out on November the 14th and take the tour and participate in the book talk, you can still come and visit that exhibit. We're very excited about that. October 27th, we are having our annual tea, and we'll have 2 sittings for that. And I'm going to talk about women's roles during times of war in this country. So cover lots of history there, but I think it should be pretty fun and be a good time. But we definitely love to have homeschool groups come in. If you're a teacher, students are admitted for free. You only and homeschool parents are, the students are admitted for free. Parents or teachers are the only ones that pay admission. So it's definitely a place to bring your groups, and we love children. And if you give us a call, we'd be happy to cater your visit, directly to kids. So
Yeah, it's definitely a little gem
it
in
is. It
Orange.
is.
Like you said, it looks a lot smaller than you get in.
Yeah.
It's like, oh wow, there's a lot here.
Yeah, and we're excited. We have
Yeah.
some neat ideas coming up leading to the 250th. Orange County in general, as you know, has some great things coming up. We won't leak them yet, but we have some really neat things that keep an eye on all of our historical groups here and sites in the county, because we have some neat stuff coming up to celebrate the 250th.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you speak a little bit more about Helen Marie Taylor and who she was and the things she did with the house and the antiques she brought in, what her vision was?
Helen Marie's vision, I think, mostly was always to preserve history. Initially, I believe it started as preserving Taylor history, but she has a well, I should say had, we did lose her about 2 years ago, but she had a passion for preserving this country's history and presidential history especially. And so she that was initially her vision, and then Jacqueline brought her this house as a wedding gift, and she continued to, fill it with artifacts. There is a James Madison portrait in there that is extremely rare that she acquired. A double violin case that the story is that what Helen Marie wanted something, she was able to make it happen. So she went into an antique shop in Richmond, and there was this double violin case that she, wanted for the home to go in the music gallery. And, the owner said, no, it's not for sale. It's part of my personal collection. And she was able to walk out of there with it. She just I would say her vision for this home was to restore it back to what it was in the Taylor era. I apologize, there's about to be a train going by. But overall, her vision was to preserve history. She was a really, really neat lady. I mean, she had a home on Monument Avenue in Richmond, and she also had acted on stage in England for a period of time. Her family Sorry, I apologize. I'm going to pause for the train.
Mm.
Her son still lives on Meadow Farm, which was also part of the original land patent that was split up, and that became her son's after her husband died. And so she was a very anyone that knew her would say that she was just a little bit of a spitfire, and definitely very politely spoke her mind. And she's most, I think, remembered when I've seen her for always looking perfect. I mean, she always, to the end, was the matching bag and lipstick and hat, and she was just truly a Southern belle. So, she did and I was a museum curator for 3 years, and I'm in awe when I walk into this house and think that she did this all on her own. This was all her doing. It was every piece in the museum in Bloomsbury has been touched by her hand, chosen by her personally. And it's really just amazing. And like you said, you've been in there. So, I mean, it's quite a bit. It's quite a bit. I think I'm hoping that we're making her proud now. And we just really, at the museum, at James Madison Museum, we really want to continue her legacy, honor what she started, and in turn grow it, and continue to be relevant. We definitely do not want to stop honoring our presidents, but we feel our vision is to also move forward and honor our Orange County residents as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you say is your favorite part of the house? Like if you're showing someone around or you're just there by yourself, what do you gravitate towards?
Truly, so I love showing people around, but truly my favorite part of the house is this right here, this stairwell right here, this view on this porch. My favorite part of is just to stand on that porch and look out over the Blue Ridge, over the mountains, and just I'm in awe every time I stand there. I really that's it's hard to pick a favorite part. I would say structurally, the staircase is my favorite, but I never get tired of after our guests have left and it's time to lock up, just standing on that front porch, and got many, many pictures in my phone of that view, and realizing that not much has changed about that view from the time that the house was built in the 1750s until now, and all that porch has seen. And who stood there, I can't help but wish the walls could talk, for sure. But
Yeah,
it's an honor to be there anytime I'm there.
absolutely. Do you know like what sort of um I guess resources, artifacts, think what do you use to like put together the story of Bloomsbury? Like, do you have any letters? Do you have like wills? Like, what? How do you know of what you know?
The main way that we know all that we know is because of Helen Marie Taylor herself. She left extensive notes and almost wrote a book herself on family lore, as well as all the research that she had done on the house. It was put on listed as a historic property, so research was done then. But the majority of what we know is from what Helen Marie Taylor has been able to give us from her own, I guess you would say, her and her husband's family archives, and then in turn being able to, when she got the home in 64, she was able to still talk to the now elderly daughters of the Jardone family. So she was able to learn that family history as well. Lots of research done at the courthouse, historic preservationists, but most of the actual lore and letters and so forth that we have were personally brought into it by Helen Marie. She made it her project. And when I say she turned it into her own personal museum, not just by furnishing it inside, everything in that home, she knew where it came from. It was, even if it's not original to the house, it's period correct. And it would have been, and then she managed to obtain the family portraits, and it's just amazing what she did. It's really amazing. But the majority of that would be the research that Helen Marie Taylor did. Also, our former executive director at the museum, Bethany, she did an extensive amount of research, and she truly, was definitely beneficial in helping with the project. And I failed to mention as well, if our guests visit bloomsbury.org, there are some resources there with the historic documents on the home, the original land patent, lots of pictures of the inside. So you can definitely check that out as well. But right now, most of what we have is what we got from Helen Marie Taylor. But since the dendrochronology, we're doing more now that we know the house is actually built later. We're doing more research and also kind of fact checking some things. As you know, with history, I liken it to, historic research is like throwing a bunch of different puzzles into a trash bag and shaking it up, and you pull out two pieces and they fit together, but then you realize, wait, the pictures aren't the same. These cannot be from the same puzzle. So historic research is definitely a process, and we are still learning more. Zan Nelson, again, helping with find out who the enslaved were there and their names, and making sure that they're honored. I know the trust has plans to put an official visitor center out there eventually. And we're also working on weatherizing the property. As of right now, it does not have heat or air conditioning inside. So that's hopefully happening in the next year as well. So big plans, and I'm most excited about a visitor center coming out there. And Bonnie from the trust will be the one manning the visitor center out there. And she was actually Helen Marie Taylor's companion for, I want to say, 20 years before she passed. So she knows quite a bit about the home as well.
Yeah, that's super. For people who don't know, Bloomsbury is off of Route 20. It's kind of behind the Orange County Airport, if you know where that is, right before you get into the town of Orange. So it's tucked away back there, and it's still like Shannah said, it retains its rural character. That makes it kind of easy to like imagine what it was like in the past, which is again really really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I every time I stare at this picture, I try to like imagine what it originally would have looked like, and this looks like a house like right out of like Williamsburg, right?
Yeah, right, right. It's
So it
definitely got
seems
that
kind of out of
colonial
place.
structure.
Yeah.
It definitely harkens back to England and that colonial type structure. And one of my favorite things in there as well, though, that dates it, definitely architecturally dates it, are the corner fireplaces in the original building. They went out of style in the early 1800s. So you don't see those corner fireplaces as often anymore either. So,
Do you know what
but
style of architecture the addition is?
so I the addition for the most part has it's a typical lean-to for of the time. So that was nothing special, but the way it's been built, other than like I said, the chimneys, they did do the regular, pretty much centered in the middle of the room chimneys on the addition, but it was definitely built to match the original home for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So they did definitely try to match the original home, but you do have these end chimneys, as opposed to this chimney here was a corner chimney.
How much
And
of the structure is still like original?
pretty much all of it. It still has the original floors throughout much of the house. So there is on the other side of the house, on the back side of this part of the house, they did enclose what would have been the Quarles's sitting room. It would have had a front sitting room and then a back area, a more private area. They did turn that into a bathroom. So there was, and that wasn't done until the restoration was done in the 60s. So prior to Mrs. Taylor coming there was not indoor plumbing. So that would be different, but pretty much. So I will say here is this porch here is more is was enclosed when Mrs. Taylor bought the house. And so she did rip that enclosure off to bring it back to what it would have been in the Taylor era. Some of my favorite original parts of the home is all of the original crown molding. The house, one unique fact about the house is that it has like a lot of built-in storage. And all of that is still in there. That hasn't been torn out. And when I say they were literally using every foot. Modern houses nowadays, you have all this dead space that you're not using, but there is so much built-in storage in this home that is all still original. The 11-foot ceilings, and that was carried through from the 1700 structure into the 1800 structure, the very high ceilings. So for the most part, I would say the house is still in its original form. Of course, the outside siding would have been redone. The roof was redone. Again, the porch would have been originally open, but then it was enclosed and Mrs. Taylor took that off. And then there is that doorway that they did cut, separating the addition from the original home to make it, more able to flow through the house. They did do that in the 60s. This door is original here,
Mm-hmm.
original shutters, all of this English
This
brick.
is
And
this
so
the color it would have been?
Mhm.
Would have been this
We're not really
whitewash?
sure because the original pictures are black and white.
Mm.
Definitely the house was white, but we're not really sure from the earliest pictures that we have. You can't really tell. But these colors, as you know, if you visited Williamsburg, these are colors that were pretty true to the time. These were, a lot of these types of colors close to nature, or your blues, or even some black was used at that time. Um, these dormer windows, very common for the time. One thing worth noting is if you look at the foundation, this English brick that does the foundation and the stairs on the original structure, they did a really great job of repeating that in the addition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
it's like almost seamless.
almost seamless, yeah. And these windows that you see on the bottom of the addition would be the wine cellar. But they did a
Mm.
wonderful job keeping it pretty, true.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah, no, to wrap up, I just want to, ask um for people who might come to visit Bloomsbury, what's one thing you hope, if you could have them take away one thing from their visit, what would that one thing be?
most definitely. I would like them, to take away that this is a symbol again of our countries, and it's a living symbol of our country and of Virginia's enduring spirit. It's not, you can love the architecture, you can love all of the artifacts, but I hope that they will, just look around and realize, how great it is that this place still stands. And there are other places like this. So again, coming up on the 250th, it's really a way to celebrate our country's enduring spirit and Virginia's enduring spirit, because, Virginia, we were at the heart of the Revolutionary War, at the heart of the Civil War. So that's what I would really like them to take away. And then secondly, take a look at how beautiful Orange County is. I mean, look at this picture here. And this is our whole county. This isn't just Bloomsbury or the town of Orange. This is, Locust Grove, Germanna, Gordonsville, Barboursville, Somerset. This is really a beautiful, beautiful place. And we have so much to offer historically, foodies, whatever you want to do, we have it here. But most importantly, take away, this as a symbol of our enduring spirit, our country, most specifically. We're at a time right now where I think that, we forget how hard, it was to just be who we are. And I think honoring our history is the best way that we can even grow for our future, by learning our history, understanding it, and talk to your people, talk to the older people in your family, get those stories. Not just the big stories about the historic houses and wars and the things you find in textbooks, but talk to them about what life was like. I think sometimes we forget, that these older people in our lives have so much to offer, and we don't ask them questions. And we also live in a digital world now where you and I, Shannon, as historians, we are lucky to be able to find, if we're lucky, documents and artifacts. And imagine the historians that are coming behind us in another 50 years, how hard it's going to be to find just even someone's handwriting on a piece of paper. It's not going to exist, right? Because
Yeah.
don't write anymore, so I think the biggest thing is just Orange County's enduring spirit, Virginia's, but most importantly our country's. So that's what hits me the most when I'm there.
Absolutely. That's great. Tons of good information. And just to recap, if someone does want to visit the house, they'd contact the James Madison Museum.
Yes, they can contact the James Madison Museum at 540-672-1776. And that's not an accident, 1776. They can email us from our website. They can contact us on our Facebook page. We'd be happy to set up a tour. I would love to come out and give a tour, keeping in mind that it is not winterized. So we have just a little bit of time before it's not going to be so fun to be out there. And then back again in the spring. But and definitely visit the museum, visit our Facebook and website, because we have events, book talks, all sorts of things coming up. And yeah, so give us a call, shoot us an email. Even if it's just one person, I would love to come out and share this house.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Shauna. That was a ton of good information.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
About like a hidden gem of Orange County. Very similar to our Salubria in that it's, unfinished. We're still learning new things about it. I think that, is a great way to kind of full circle tie our stories together, right? You have the Knights of the Golden Horseshoe, James Taylor, Alexander
Yes.
Spotswood, and then it comes back together again because our two properties are very much alike.
It's very cool too, because they, they're intertwined, and we're still learning, and it's really exciting. And I can't wait to come out and visit Salubria as well. I'm definitely going to take you up on your offer and come visit, because I would love to learn more about your property, as well as, you know, Historic Germanna and the visitor center. And yeah, so I'm excited. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
having me and letting me ramble about
Oh,
history.
of
It's my
course.
favorite
No,
thing.
we love rambling about history here. That's
Yes,
awesome.
those are my people, right? So
Again, just to wrap up, we again want to thank our Sustainer Circle supporters for making this event and other events possible. We have another evening with Germanna planned in the last weekend of October on Thursday. We're actually going to be having a recap with our archaeologists about the season, what they found. So feel free to tune into that to get an update on the 2024 dig season. Before that, we're having our sold out Salubria After Dark After Hours tour next Friday. And then continuing with our Friday in October archaeology behind the scenes tours. So tomorrow at 10 a.m., next Friday, and the Friday after that, we're offering tours to actually see the dig site, talk to archaeologists, kind of like a personal behind the scenes experience that isn't the site isn't open that often, so it's a pretty unique opportunity. So all of the information's on our Facebook, on our Instagram, on our website. Feel free to contact us if you'd like more information on any of that. But otherwise, again, thank you so much, Shauna, and I hope everyone who's
thank you
attended
for
has
having me.
a great rest of their night.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks.